Hello, Algebra 2. This is our video key for lesson 8.8, complex fractions. I believe we had 8 problems on this assignment, so let's get started by taking a look at number 1. Here's number 1. We're given the complex fraction of 5/3 over 5/9 plus 9 over x squared. So what we want to do first is we want to combine these fractions in the denominator. We only want a single fraction in the numerator and a single fraction in the denominator. So we need to combine these two into one. So we're still going to have 5/3 in our numerator, but we need to find a common denominator here so we can add these two together. Look at this. It looks like our common denominator will be 9x squared. I'm going to multiply my first fraction by x squared over x squared. I'm going to multiply my second fraction times 9 over 9. What I'll end up with in my first term here, now I'm going to end up with 5 times x squared. I'm going to have 5x squared over 9x squared. And I'm going to add to that 9 times 9 is 81. And that's going to be over 9 times x squared. So that'll be over 9x squared. So you see what I've done by these two multiplications here is I've created a common denominator of 9x squared. Now I can combine these two into one fraction on the bottom. So I'll have 5/3 on the top. My bottom is now going to be, my numerator is going to be 5x squared plus 81, and that'll be over 9x squared. So now I have a single fraction in the numerator here, and I have a single fraction in the denominator here. So at this point, what I do is I write the numerator, 5/3, and I'm going to multiply it by the reciprocal of my denominator. So that means I'm going to flip my denominator. So I'm going to have 9x squared over 5x squared plus 81. Now I can combine these two in one fraction. So I'll have 5 times 9x squared. That's going to be 45x squared. I'm going to have 3 times 5x squared plus 81. I want to write it like this so you can see that I'm going to have to distribute that 3 through these parentheses. So I'll end up with 45. Well, actually, I really don't need to do that because I have a common factor here, 3 and 45. So 3 goes into 3 one time. So that'll cancel out. 3 goes into 45 15 times. So I'm now going to be left with 15x squared over 5x squared plus 81. And there is my answer to number 1. Number 2, I'm given the complex fraction x squared over 4 minus x squared over 8, all that over 4 over x. So our first steps, we want to make sure that we have just one fraction in the denominator and just one fraction in the numerator. We're okay in the denominator, but we need to combine these two up top in the numerator. So we need to figure out what our common denominator is going to be between 4 and 8. Most simple common denominator will be 8. We need to multiply 4 by 2 to get that to 8. But whatever I do at the bottom, I'm going to have to multiply the top by 2 as well. So let me go ahead and do that math here. That's going to make 2x squared over 8 minus x squared over 8 in our numerator. Our denominator stays the same at 4 over x. Now I just need to combine the two fractions of my numerator, 2x squared minus x squared, which is going to be 1x squared over 8. That's still going to be over the fraction 4 over x. Now that I have one fraction in the numerator, one fraction in the denominator, I can invert the one in my denominator and multiply it times my numerator. So I'll have x squared over 8. I'll just rewrite that one as is. I'm going to multiply it by the reciprocal of my denominator, which is x over 4. So I'm going to combine these two. X squared times x is x cubed. 8 times 4 is 32. So my answer to number 2 is x cubed over 32. And number 3, I'm given the complex fraction m over 16 plus 5m over 4, all that over 1 over 5. Step 1 is to make sure I have a single fraction in both my denominator and my numerator. Currently I only have that in the denominator, so I need to combine these two terms up here in the numerator. Need to look for a common denominator. Probably my easiest common denominator up top here is going to be 16. So I'm going to multiply this 4 times 4 to get that to 16, but whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top as well. So my numerator is going to look like this, m over 16 plus, I'm going to multiply 5m times 4, that becomes 20m, and then 4 times 4 becomes 16. Still all over 1 over 5. I can simplify now my numerator. M plus 20m is going to become 21m, and that's going to be over my common denominator of 16. And that'll all still be over 1/5. Well, now that I have a single fraction in my numerator and my denominator, I can reciprocate my denominator and multiply it times my numerator. So let's rewrite my numerator, 21m over 16. I'm going to multiply that by the reciprocal of the denominator, so that's going to be 5 over 1. 5 times 21 is going to be 105m over 16. There's no more simplification I can do there, so my answer to number 3 becomes 105m over 16. Number 4, we already simplified a complex fraction, 16/3 minus 4x over 9, all that over 9 over x squared. So again, I need to find a way to get one fraction in my numerator and one fraction in my denominator. Actually, my denominator is already there. I just need to combine the two fractions on the top here. So I need to find a common denominator. Looking at this, it's going to be 9. So I'm going to multiply my first fraction by 3. 3 times 3, that's going to give me the common denominator of 9. But I also need to multiply the top by 3 as well. So I'm going to have 3 times 16. That'll be 48 over 9 minus 4x over 9. That's all going to be over 9 over x squared. So now I have my common denominator up top. Now I just need to combine these two fractions. So I'm going to get 48 minus 4x over 9. That's all going to be over 9 over x squared. So now that I have one fraction in the numerator, one fraction in the denominator, I can take the reciprocal of the denominator and multiply that times the numerator. So I'll rewrite my numerator, 48 minus 4x over 9 times the reciprocal of my denominator, x squared over 9. So this is when I combine these on top, and I have x squared times, and I'm going to put this numerator in parentheses because I'm not just multiplying the x squared times the 4x, I'm multiplying it by both terms. So I'm going to have to distribute that through the parentheses. My denominator is going to be 9 times 9, or 81. So in here, I'm going to end up with 48x squared minus 4x cubed, and that'll all be over 81. And there is my answer for number 4. Number 5, we have the complex fraction 3a over 25 over a over 3 minus a squared over 5. So I need to get a single fraction in the numerator and denominator. Okay, in the numerator, I need to combine these two in the denominator. I need to pick a common denominator so I can combine these two. It looks like it's going to be 15. So I'll multiply my first term here by 5 over 5. Multiply my second term here by 3 over 3. And what I end up with is, well, my numerator doesn't change, but my denominator becomes, that's going to be 5. 5 times a is 5a. 5 times 3 is 15. I'm going to subtract a squared times 3 is 3a squared, and 5 times 3 is 15. So I have my common denominator down there. Now I can combine those two fractions. So again, my numerator doesn't change. My denominator becomes 5a minus 3a squared all over 15. So now I have one fraction in the numerator, one in the denominator. So I'm going to rewrite my numerator, 3a over 25, but I'm going to multiply it by the reciprocal of my denominator here. So that'll be 15 over 5a minus 3a squared. Now I need to do some simplifying. Well, Before I simplify, why don't we'll go ahead and do this here. I'm going to have 3a times 15 is going to be 45a, and that's going to be over 25 times 5a minus 3a squared. Real quick, I can factor an a out of this over here, so I'll have 45a over 25, and now I'm pulling an a out. When I pull an a out of this factor down here, I'll be left with 5 minus 3a. So I pull the greatest common factor out of this set of parentheses right here. Now I can start simplifying. I have an a on the top and the bottom I can get rid of. I have common factor of 5 in 45 and 25. 5 goes into 45 9 times, and it goes into 5 times. And it looks like that's as far as I can go. So I'm going to have 9 over 5 times 5 minus 3a. And there's my answer for number 5. Here's number 6. We have 1/5 over 25 ninths plus 9 over a plus 3. So again, I'm trying to get a single fraction in the numerator denominator. Okay, in the numerator. Got some work to do in the denominator, however. So I need to pick a common denominator for these two fractions down here. Looks like it's going to be 9 times a plus 3. So I'm going to multiply this first fraction times a plus 3. Multiply the denominator times a plus 3. I have to multiply the numerator as well. Over here, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 9. So what that'll give me on the denominator now, my first term is going to be 25 times a plus 3 over a plus 3 times 9. And I'm going to add 9 times 9 is 81 over a plus 3 times 9. So now I have a common denominator down here in the bottom, so I can combine these two fractions. I'll do a little math here at the same time. So I'm going to have 1/5 over, if I were to distribute that 25 through the a plus 3, I'm going to get 25a plus, and 25 times 3 is 75 plus 81. That's all going to be over a plus 3 times 9. So all I did here, when I have 25a plus 75, I just distributed that 25 through the a plus 3. Now I have 1 over 5. Still got a little simplification I can do here. I'm going to have 25a, 75 plus 81, that's 156, all over a plus 3 times 9. So now I have one fraction in the top, I have one fraction in the bottom. So now I can invert that bottom, the denominator, and multiply it. So I'll rewrite my numerator of 1/5. I'm going to multiply it by the reciprocal. So I'll get a plus 3 times 9. That'll be over 25a plus 156. All right, so I'm going to distribute that 9 through. So I'll get 9a plus 27 on top. To multiply everything down here by 5, so 25a times 5, that's 125a. 5 times 156. Now I'm going to use my calculator on that one. Make sure I don't make a mistake. 5 times 156 equals 780. I don't think I can go any further than that. So here's my answer for number 6. I have 9a plus 27 over 125a plus 780. Number 7, I have this complex fraction here. I have 5 over x plus 6 plus 25 over x plus 6. All that over x plus 6 over x plus 5 minus x plus 5 over x plus 6. So I have two fractions in the numerator, two fractions in the denominator, and I need to combine those so I have one fraction in the numerator, one fraction in the denominator. So I have to start looking for common denominators inside each of these. So Luckily, in my numerator, I already have a common denominator present, x plus 6. So I will combine these two. I'll get 5 plus 25 all over x plus 6. That was easy. That was there for us. But this one, I need to find a common denominator for. And I think my common denominator will be x plus 5 times x plus 6. So I'm going to need to multiply my first term times x plus 6 over x plus 6. I have to multiply this one times x plus 5 over x plus 5. What I will end up with is x plus 6 squared over x plus 6, x plus 5. That's my first term here. My second term is going to end up being, I'm going to subtract that, it'll be x plus 5 squared also over x plus 6, x plus 5. So the denominator got it along there, but this is the denominator with that common denominator of x plus 6, x plus 5. So I'm ready to combine those two now. So my numerator will stay the same. Well, actually I can add 5 plus 25. So I'll end up with 30 over x plus 6. That'll all be over x plus 6 squared minus x plus 5 squared all over x plus 6, x plus 5. So now I have one fraction up top, I have one fraction in the bottom, so now I can rewrite this. So I'll rewrite my numerator as is. I'm going to multiply that by the reciprocal of my denominator of x plus 6, x plus 5 over x plus 6 squared minus x plus 5 squared. So multiplying, I'm going to rewrite this as one fraction to make it a little easier to cancel some things out. Well, it won't though. Well, yeah, sure it will. Okay, so if I'm multiplying 30 times x plus 6 times x plus 5, that's good. Down here I can cross out this factor of x plus 6. I'll be left on the top with 30 times x plus 5. That'll all be over. I'm going to go ahead and FOIL these out while I'm going here. So I'm going to have x squared plus 12x plus 36. Hopefully that rings a bell to you guys from FOILing, from combining polynomials. If not, I'd go back and take a look at that. You guys should know how to do that by now. Now I'm going to FOIL x plus 5. So x plus 5 squared, that's going to be x squared plus 10x plus 25. All right, so I've run out of space, but I still got some more simplifying to do. So pause it and write down up top here if you need it. Rewrite what I got down here. So I have 30 times x plus 5, all that over x squared plus 12x plus 36 minus x squared plus 10x plus 25. All right, so hopefully you remember what denominator looks like when we were subtracting polynomials. That was from an earlier unit. Up top, I'm going to go ahead and distribute that 30 through. So I'll end up with 30x plus 150. That'll all be over x squared plus 12x plus 36. Remember, if I had the subtraction sign out here, I just change the sign on everything inside here. I'll end up with minus x squared minus 10x minus 25. I got one more step to simplify here. So I have 30x plus 150 over, I have x squared minus x squared, they cancel out. I'm going to have 12x minus 10x, so that's going to be a 2x. I'm going to have 36 minus 25, that's going to be plus 11. So after all that, my answer to number 7 is 30x plus 150 over 2x plus 11. All right, here's our final question in this assignment, number 8. So I have 5 over x minus 3 plus x minus 3 over 3x minus 5, all that over x squared over 3x minus 5 minus x over 3x minus 5. I need to combine my two fractions up here into one fraction, and I need to combine my two fractions in the denominator into one fraction. So I'm going to need to get a common denominator up top here. It looks like it's going to be x minus 3 times 3x minus 5. So I'm going to multiply my first fraction times 3x minus 5. I'm going to start using parentheses so I don't mess up here. And if I multiply the bottom by 3x minus 5, I have to multiply the top by 3x minus 5. Over here, I'm going to multiply this by x minus 3. Again, I'm going to put parentheses around everything so I don't mistakenly make an error. So that should give me my common denominator. Let's go ahead and work this out. I'm going to multiply my first fraction together. I'm going to get 5 times 3x minus 5. That'll be on the top here. My bottom is going to be 3x minus 5 times x minus 3. So we're in good shape there. Now I'm going to add, let's see my second fraction here. I'll have x minus 3 squared over 3x minus 5 times x minus 3. Okay, now I have a common denominator up top. I have a common denominator down here as well, so I can go ahead and simplify this one. Common denominator, going to simplify it, so I'm going to combine my numerators and keep my common denominator. Again, I'm putting parentheses around everything here. All right, so I got one single fraction in the denominator. I got two fractions with common denominators up top here. So I'm going to combine these two fractions. So I'll end up with 5 times 3x minus 5. It's going to be plus x minus 3 squared. That'll all be over 3x minus 5, x minus 3. And my denominator is still x squared minus x over 3x minus 5. Now that I have a single fraction in my numerator and a single fraction in my denominator, I can go ahead and multiply my numerator times the reciprocal of my denominator. So let's go ahead and set that up. I'm going to go ahead and distribute this through. So I'll have 15x minus 25, and that's plus, if I'm going to FOIL out my x minus 3, actually I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to hold off on that step there. Let's just get it set up here first. So I'll have 5 times 3x minus 5 plus x minus 3 squared, I'm already running out of room, over 3x minus 5, x minus 3. So it's just me rewriting the numerator here. I'm going to multiply that times the reciprocal of the denominator. So I'll have 3x minus 5 on top. On the bottom, I'm going to have x squared minus x. Okay, so I need some more room, so I'm going to erase everything up top here. So pause if you need to take some notes. Okay, I'm going to rewrite this fraction up here. So 5 times 3x minus 5 plus x minus 3 squared. That's times, so I'm going to be multiplying this whole thing times 3x minus 5. Might be easier to see if I use brackets instead of parentheses. And my denominator is going to be 3x minus 5 times x minus 3 times x squared minus x. So, is there any simplifying I can do off the bat here? I see one. I can take 3x minus 5. That's a factor. Since I'm multiplying times this entire set of brackets, that is a factor, so I can cancel that out. So I get some more room. Now I'm going to go ahead and multiply these things out and see what I get. So if I carry that 5 through the parentheses here, I'll get 15x minus 25. I'm going to go ahead and FOIL my x minus 3, so I'm going to get x squared minus 6x plus 9. So again, if you need to revisit foiling, go back to that lesson. And down here, if I FOIL this one, I will have x cubed minus x squared minus 3x squared plus 3x. Should have been x cubed. Okay, let's simplify this a little more. Let's combine like terms on the top. My first is x squared, so we'll get rid of that one. 15x minus 6x, that is plus 9x. And finally, minus 25 and plus 9 is going to be minus 16. So there's my top. On the bottom, I'm going to have x cubed minus, looks like minus 4x squared plus 3x. That's as far as I can go on this one. I'm not going to factor the top here. I guess I could pull the greatest common factor of x out of the denominator, all that's not necessary. So my final answer for number 8, x squared plus 9x minus 16 over x cubed minus 4x squared plus 3x. So hopefully going through these 8 problems will help you understand simplifying complex fractions a little better, or if you got stuck on these homework problems, hopefully it got you unstuck or you're able to work your way through it. Good news is there's not going to be anything as difficult as number 7 and number 8 on the quiz coming up. So that's good news. Those had a lot of work involved. So if you are still struggling with some of these questions, please email me so we can work through that.